A very pleasant good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to the People's Forum of In the Street with Big Stone. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm charged up. I'm charged up for a very serious topic. And I'm going to be showing you footage, ladies and gentlemen, of how this country has changed from the beautiful paradise to what has now become a nation under siege. Jamaica is a beautiful country. It is a tourist, well-loved destination. People from all over the world come to this beautiful country. Things have gone from bad to worse. Now I'm going to show you a clip, ladies and gentlemen, after a newscaster from the BBC talking about travel advisory. Because as you know, the United States of America has issued a travel advisory warning to its citizens to be extremely careful if you're thinking about going to Jamaica, to be extremely careful if you're in Jamaica. At a certain time, you should make sure you stay within the four walls of your hotel.
Travelling to Jamaica are being advised to stay in their resorts after a state of emergency was declared around Montego Bay. There's been a surge in gang-related violence in the area. Every year, around 200,000 Britons visit. Nick Davis reports.
For a country that depends on tourism, the pictures of troops on the streets in Montego Bay, Jamaica's biggest resort, isn't ideal. But the government says it's something that needs to be done.
The security forces are expected and have been directed to treat citizens with respect and protect the dignity and safety of all.
Most of the tourists who visit Montego Bay and much of the North Coast stay in gated and guarded all-inclusive hotels where security isn't an issue. But the growing reality for people who live in the city is that crime has spiked. Last year saw over 1,600 people murdered in Jamaica, 335 of them in St. James, the area where Montego Bay is. Most of the crime is gang-related and focused in a small number of communities. The Foreign Office has advised holiday makers that they should only travel to and from the airport to their hotels, and when they do take excursions, to make sure they're arranged by official tour reps. The authorities say there will be more roadblocks and vehicle searches as they go after the gangs and their guns. A similar state of emergency in 2010 in Kingston saw the murder rate drop to its lowest levels in years, a statistic that meant lives saved. In Montego Bay, it's hoped the same will happen again. Nick Davis, BBC News, Jamaica.
And of course, Great Britain came out with that kind of advisory, ladies and gentlemen. And also Canada has come out with that kind of advisory. And it has forced the Prime Minister, I think, to move even faster. But what I think that really jolted this public state of emergency that is now on the communities of St. James, because the entire St. James is under a public state of emergency. The soldiers are out in droves. Take a look at this video. You see what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen? Soldiers up on top of soldiers. And also, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take a look at this video. I cannot show the video in its entirety, but this video was shot yesterday at a funeral in Salt Spring when gunmen invaded the funeral and one person was shot and killed and 6 other persons injured. Now it has become the norm, ladies and gentlemen, that you can't even go to a funeral anymore to mourn the loss of your loved ones.
Nah, man, you want to go over here?
Boy, come on, go over here. Jesus Christ, man. Oh, God, me got me hard. I police them kill him. I don't know. Some of your man too. Boy. God. Boy.
Because you just might be the next person going in that box. I'm also going to show you this next video. Take a look at this video. A video of some people celebrating the life of a loved one. But look at just what's happening to our society. Take a look. You've seen that video. So ladies and gentlemen, when you look at all those videos and you combine all those videos, we're talking about this beautiful piece of the rock. We're talking about Jamaica here. We're talking about this country's well on the siege. They say the crime rate between the age of 12 and 17 are responsible for 22 murders. They're saying that the youngsters between the age of 18 and 29 are responsible for well over 300 and something murders. Ladies and gentlemen, this country need social intervention. And I will applaud the Prime Minister for trying his best to make sure that his citizens, his people are safe, because that was part of his resolute when he spoke on safety, and if I was elected into office, you can start sleeping with your windows open. I know the Prime Minister is doing his best. The leaders of the opposition is willing to work also alongside them and do their part. But you cannot stop crime if you invest billions of dollars in the security forces. You cannot stop crime if you invest hundreds of millions of dollars in trying to provide cameras and so on and so forth and so on to keep the crime rate down. The only way you can keep the crime rate down is you have to address the issues. And the issues of crime is not necessarily poverty. Because if it was poverty that created crime, if you take a look at Haiti, one of the poorest countries in the Western Hemisphere, with a population of 10 million people. And I don't think 400 or 500 people was killed last year. And Haiti has a lot of guns down there. So it's not just poverty. I'm not saying it doesn't play a part, a role. I'm not saying it's not active. But what I'm saying is not just poverty that makes crime. You have to look at the mindset of the people. How did they get to this mindset? How did our people arrive at where we are today? So I'm saying that if you really want this country to come back to its feet, Mr. Prime Minister, you have to direct your efforts, your monies, at the root of the problem. And the root of the problem is the people. You have to get to the people. Get to the people and you can solve crime. Get to the people and you can bring your murder rate down to a tolerable level. The reason why I'm so sure this would work, I'm sure this would work. We have seen in recent times, especially in the Rockford area, when all hell was breaking loose, both sides was actually fighting at each other. People were dying on both sides. And as soon as the The ministers intervened, the police intervened in an amicable way, sat down with these brothers and reasoned with these brothers, telling these brothers that, hey, when you have crime, it affects everybody. All the businesses are locked down. Nobody can move, and people are dying. People are dying. And guess what? Just like that, the shots stopped firing. So when you address the people, when you respect the people, when you find out what is happening with the people, then that is the only way you can keep crime down. Address the issues. You know what are some of the major issues with the people? Social infrastructures and social intervention. We're not having and putting our youngsters' mind to work. Most of our youngsters are left idle after school. There's no father figure in the home. And most of our citizens who are grown men who are supposed to be father figures are not picking up the slack. Either they're scared, and you can't blame some of them for being scared. It's a scary world out there. I love the youths. I just love to reason with the youths and have conversation with the youths. And you know, I just love to see a youth turn from bad to good. You know, this country can come back. Nobody can tell me that Jamaica cannot come back. It can come back, but it takes effort. It takes effort of the government, who's pouring billions of dollars. And when I say pouring billions of dollars into after the fact, is after crime has gone to this level, they're pouring a lot of money to see if they can stop the flow of violence. Why not prevent the flow of violence by putting these billions that you put into fighting crime, into reassuring the people, into making sure that some families can eat, in making sure so some families can get their children into school, making sure some youth can have an education. You know, these are very important in bringing your country back. So Jamaica, I'm not going to be long with this one. You've seen the footage. I just had to share it with you. Some of them were so graphic that I could even show you what I really wanted to show you. Look at the situation at the Norman Manley International Airport. A few yards away from one of our major airports, the second city of Montego Bay, shots rang out at about 1 o'clock. People are killed right next door to our airport. Look at what happened a week ago before that from the Freeport police station, walking distance away from the police station. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, high-powered rifles were used and people lost their lives. You know, this is just some of the things that are happening in this country that is brazen and that is brave. What I see is that some of these youngsters, because they're so misguided, they don't fear anything. They don't fear death. They take on anybody. For real, they don't fear death. They'll keep coming and keep coming. So Mr. Prime Minister, the good job that you're doing, fix the social problem. Let the money come down and trickle down so the poor man can eat. And you'll see how we can bring back this beautiful country. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is just my take on the entire issue. I want to thank you very much for tuning in. I know it's a rough thing for you to do, but there's going to be a saying that goes like this: let the dead bury their dead. Peter Tosh, remember that tune there? Let the dead bury their dead, because not even us are safe anymore to bury our loved ones. You do have a safe day, and thank you all for joining me on today's forum, the People's Forum with Big Stone. Thank you, and have a great day.